Hello everyone, welcome again to this YouTube channel. And for today's video, we will talk about the concepts of mistake in the blow or Aberratio Ictus and also error in personae. So some students sometimes confuse these two concepts. So I hope after this video, we would clear any confusions on these two concepts. Let's start with error in personae. So in the last video, we talked about the concept of mistake of fact and also the praeter intentionem. So unlike the mistake of fact, which it is considered as a form of defense, the error in personae, on the other hand, or the mistake in the identity of the victim, is not in any form a defense. So despite your intention to kill this person, but since the circumstance doesn't warrant it, but at the beginning you have this intention to kill somebody, it's just that it was the injury or the killing was inflicted to somebody else, that would tantamount to a mistake of identity or error in personae. So you cannot use a defense the identity of the person. In fact, there's a Supreme Court case where there was a question whether or not the person would be held liable for parricide because the very intention of the person was to kill another person, but it turns out the one that was killed was his father. So the question was, would that tantamount to parricide even if there's no knowledge as to the identity of the victim? The Supreme Court declared that yes, because in parricide, knowledge is not an element. So even if there's an error in personae or mistake of identity, but the fact that at the very beginning there was an intention to kill, and it so happens that the one that was killed was the father, and if we look at the revised penal code on parricide, knowledge is not an element. The very element of parricide is the blood relationship. So in that sense, the person was held liable for parricide. So going back, error in personae, again, it's not a form of defense. For you to distinguish error in personae and mistake in the blow or Aberratio Ictus, it is important to know that in mistake in identity or error in personae or mistake of identity, the intended victim was not actually present in the crime scene. Okay, the intended victim was not present. In mistake in the blow, on the other hand, the intended victim and the actual victim are both present in the crime scene. So in mistaken identity, for illustration, A wanted to kill B, so A waited in some portion of the narrow street or an alley where he believed that B would always pass by in that portion or in that area of in the barangay or whatnot. So happens at that particular time, so he believed that the person who passed by that alley was actually B, so he stabbed B, that resulted to the killing. So it so happens that when he dragged B to the portion where it's selected, it turns out that the one that was killed was not actually B, but it was somebody else. So A cannot use the knowledge of the identity of the person as a form of defense for the crime. So he would still be held liable for whatever result of that stabbing or of that killing. So in that case, the intended victim was not actually present in the crime scene. So that's for mistaken identity. For mistake in the blow, on the other hand, there was no confusion, there was no mistake in identity, or there was no possible exchange of identity or confusion of the identity. But in mistake in the blow, the intended victim was actually there. However, for circumstance outside of his control, the act goes or the stabbing or the activity goes astray. So instead that the blow be inflicted to the intended victim, but the blow was actually inflicted to another person. So for this illustration, A wanted to stab B, but it so happens that B able to dodge, and then the stabbing was actually was inflicted to C, which caused C's death. So in that case, A cannot claim as a defense that the intended victim was not C, but it was actually B. In fact, A would be held liable for a compound type of crime, which is considered as a compound crime. So in that sense, since A able to kill C on that particular incident, and then supposedly in compound crime, one act constitutes two or more grave or less grave. Supposedly, in that sense, there's actually two crimes. Now, if you look at it in total, so there's one crime for supposedly attempted, and the second crime for possible frustrated or consummated, depending on what's the result. So in that case, since there's a concept of complex crime where one act resulted to two or more grave or less grave, then mistake in the blow happens to be a concrete example of a compound crime. So in that sense, even if supposedly, if you look at it, there's two crimes, but since that's covered under the concept of complex crime, then we only look at it as one crime. So since there's under the law, under the eyes of the law, there's one crime, so whichever is the highest penalty, that will be given to the person. Okay, so that's for the mistake in the blow or Aberratio Ictus. So again, to clarify, in mistaken identity, the intended victim was not actually present in the crime scene, while in the mistake in the blow, the intended victim plus the actual victim were present in the crime scene. Okay, so I hope this clears the confusion. So that would be the mistake in the blow and that of mistake of identity. So thank you. I hope this helps. And once again, just a disclaimer, this video would not tantamount to the creation of any lawyer-client relationship. And hopefully that you will not rely on this video and you will also do your reading. keep studying, and hopefully we will see each other, whether it's in the oath taking or in the court as pañeros and pañeras. Yeah, and thank you, and God bless us all.